This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and yep, we're still coming to you after 26 years from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our radio website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And if you'd like to find out the other great programming that we have available for you 24/7, 365, www.xzbn.net. My guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, is Janice Carlson. Now, Janice holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Communication and Secondary Education. After years spent as an advertising copywriter, she authored 15 novels for New York publishing house under her fiction writing pen name, Ashland Price. Then in 1992, Janice accidentally discovered her ability to communicate with the dead. Since that time, she has done thousands of afterlife communication sessions for clients throughout the United States. Now, are you all sitting down for this? Because she does this with a money-back guarantee of contact. The only lady I have ever spoke to doing this show, 26 years, 5 nights a week, 4 guests a night, who gives a money-back guarantee of contact. Her recent book, Soul Sensing, How to Communicate with Your Dead Loved Ones, received a glowing 4-star review from the San Francisco Book Review, as well as the raves from scores of radio and podcast hosts throughout America. Janice is now at work on a series of haunted travelogue books covering her experiences as a professional medium in sacred and haunted locations all over North America. Her website, www.janicecarlson.com. And Janice, welcome back to the X-Zone. Great having you with us.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for having me.
So let me ask you a very basic question. What are soul sensings?
Soul senses are my name for what some people call astral senses. Mm-hmm. They're the inner senses that kind of mirror your actual physical senses, like seeing and hearing and tasting and smelling. All of those things have an echo ability, ability that's within you. It's like sometimes you'll smell something in a room and you'll say, "Oh my God, that smells like cigar smoke," and other people aren't smelling it. And often that's a deceased loved one trying to communicate with you because you may know them by the smell of their aftershave or their their cigars or cigarettes or whatever. So they're kind of inner senses, and other people aren't necessarily going to have the same experience that are with you.
Tell me, what was it that happened in 1992 that, allowed you to discover your ability to communicate with the dead?
I was visiting the house of somebody who was doing some freelance work for me, and I happened to tell her that I knew the former owner of this townhouse, and she said, I love this place, but I wish she had told me it was haunted before she sold it to me. And I said, I've known that woman for years, the previous owner, and we've been to the place, the townhouse, several times, and but she's never mentioned any hauntings. I mean, it just sounded really off somehow, because I had, like I said, we'd been to several events and things at this townhouse or parties, and it just didn't sound quite right. And then as I moved farther into this lady's townhouse, I was just admiring how well she had redecorated it and kind of made it her own. And my eyes kind of lighted upon this picture of I'd say a 60-ish woman on the piano. And I said, I have the oddest sensation that is who's visiting you here. I don't think it's a haunting. I think it's a visiting of some kind. And she said, oh, that's my mother. She died about 8 years ago in a horseback riding accident. And then things kept popping into my mind, like names, and I just said them to Jody, the current owner of the townhouse. And I said, does any of this mean anything to you? Because it's like flowing through me, and I feel compelled to say it to you. And she was just in tears. She said, my God, that's Pat is the aunt that my mother was with when she had her horseback riding accident. And some of the other names you're mentioning are family names. And there was no way I could know this stuff. So I felt very kind of swept off my feet by it, especially because this was before there were what we call the TV mediums on, that we'd all know, like John Edward, James Van Prague, and so forth, and Manhattan Media, or the Long Island Medium, and so forth. Yeah. So I just had no context for it.
All right, you and I are going to continue this interesting conversation with the one and only Janice Carlson when we come back from this break, X-Zone Nation, in 2 minutes. Janice Carlson is the only, and I mean this, the only afterlife communicator who gives a money-back guarantee of contact. Her website, JaniceCarlson.com. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Hello, I'm Pete Marsh. With my daughter Justina, we will be presenting the new radio show, Too Good to Be True. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But with the help of Justina's amazing gifts, we're going to gain insight into questions that don't yet have complete answers. Have you wondered who built Stonehenge and for what reason? Why are crop circles found in the same region as Stonehenge and elsewhere? Are crop circles a hoax, or are they created with technologies that we have little knowledge of? Who built the pyramids in Egypt and also in other countries? How and why were they built? Was the Titanic switched with the Britannic as part of a gigantic insurance fraud, or for more insidious reasons? What caused the Tunguska event when trees were flattened over an 800 square mile area in Siberia? Will the new insights be too good to be true? Well, that will depend on what you are prepared to believe. Please join us as we start on this journey together. For more information on Too Good to Be True, visit www.xzbn.net.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Janice Carlson is our guest, www.janicecarlson.com. Janice, what do you think happened that day in 1992? Do you think that something clicked on within your DNA or something happened? How do you explain the sudden ability to communicate and to understand and to, do what you do?
I think I'd always had the ability, and I'd always kind of kept it to myself in regard to just my own 2 parents who had died by the time I was 10. So my biological mother and my adoptive father were both dead by the time I was 10 due to illnesses. And I think what happened was that I kind of got hardwired to heaven talking to them in my own head. But suddenly somebody else picked up on that ability, which was Jody's mother that day, and thought, gosh, we've got a medium who's just walked in here. She may not know that yet, but she's going to. And she did say, too, she said, talking through you is like playing an untuned piano.
Wow.
Because I just had never had much practice at it, and certainly never done it for somebody else before. So I think the opportunity came, and the spirit of her mother grabbed it. I can't say I blame her at all. I mean, it was very sudden death. She didn't get a chance to say goodbye to her children, and most of us in that spot would do the same thing.
How do you deal with skepticism? Because, because of a lot of the television shows that are anything but reality, somebody with your experience, with your gift, your talent, how do you fight against, or how do you work against the negativity that is being created by the industry?
Well, I do that money back guarantee precisely for that reason. Mm-hmm. Mediumship got a real black eye around the turn of the century and the late 1800s because people were trying to reproduce physical mediumship, things like a clock suddenly falling off a wall and physical things happening as a result of like levitation and stuff. And some mediums had these things occur and then tried to keep reproducing them as more and more groups came through. And that was the trickery that really gave the whole industry a bad, a black eye.
Right.
And so I thought the only way you can prove to somebody that you're talking to their deceased loved one is to do it and to bring through details that they would recognize that you couldn't possibly know from any other source. And that's the only way to do it. Maybe it's something that has to be done one by one for all of us to believe it.
Many people believe in reincarnation. What happens if the person that is in front of you requesting the communication with someone on the other side, they've already been reincarnated. What happens then?
I'll get a sense that I'm not able to talk to them, and nor have they left any kind of memory messages or anything, and so I'll just say that I'm not able to communicate with them for whatever reason, and it could very well be reincarnation is certainly one of the reasons.
Do you ever get a spirit that says, I don't want to talk?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Really? Eh?
It's fairly rare. I'd say 1 in every 50 people. I will not be able to read for them. I will not be able to bring through their deceased loved one or pet or whatever. And that's why I think the money-back guarantee is important, too, because nobody wants to get skunked when they pay a medium. They want to feel like they're not just getting vague messages like I love you and stuff like that.
Has anybody ever come to you and asked you to ask Aunt May where she put her secret stash of money or where the key to the safety deposit box is, or questions like this?
Yes, yeah.
And is that information readily given by the other side?
Sometimes,
wow.
And sometimes not so much. Yeah, sometimes they just will not answer.
Those on the other side, are they able to tell the future?
Yes.
Do they give that future information to those who are seeking their input on this side?
Yeah, yes, if it's requested, yes. I do have a client that I read for, Laura Bew, that I wrote about in my book, who's a psychologist. She's got her PhD in psychology. And when her husband died, we found that often he would say things that didn't have anything to do, she didn't recognize the information, but we'd write it down anyway, or she would. And then these things started happening. I mean, they started coming true. And they were clearly predictions. And I think it was his way of showing us that they do look forward in time. Most of the predictions, we started keeping track of them, came true within about 21 days.
Wow.
So I don't know, maybe they can see forward quite a distance, or maybe they can only see forward 3 weeks.
How do you know? I understand that there are tricksters on the other side. So how do you know when you when you communicate with the other side that you're getting the real person and not one of these tricksters?
Well, there's no real way to guarantee that, but mediums for the most part have an awful lot of spiritual protection, so they tend not to mess with mediums because I suppose they know we're powerful enough to exercise them from a given setting and so forth.
What has been your strangest reading that you've been asked to perform?
I think one of the strangest things I've ever seen is when we left, there was a group of sisters that wanted to talk to their deceased mother, and her name was Lou,
Lou.
Short for Louise.
Oh, okay.
And when we came, I remember one of the sisters was just crying uncontrollably. And I remember saying, she said, I just miss her so much, I just wish I could get a physical sign. And I said, well, I'm not a physical medium, but I've brought through a lot of information I couldn't possibly know. And when we left the room where we'd been doing the session, someone bumped into a shelf that contained baby blocks. And the baby blocks fell off and spelt out the word Lou, L-O-U. And so that was one of the strangest things I've seen because, as I said, I'm not a physical medium, but when physical mediumship occurs around my readings, it always really takes me aback.
When you say you're not a physical medium, what is a physical medium?
A physical medium is someone who causes physical energy to manifest itself in that setting, in the form of levitation, in the form of like I say, a clock maybe gonging when it's not supposed to, those kinds of physical things to happen, the lights to switch on and off, that sort of thing.
Have you ever been requested to read, or I'm sorry, not to read, but to communicate with someone on the other side in a very unusual place that has been requested by the person who wants the reading done or the communication done?
The only real unusual place was a reading I did one time for my literary agent, and she said, I have a grandfather who was really kind of a rotten guy, and I'm wondering if you can tell me anything about what you're seeing. And what she meant by rotten is just that he was horrible to other people and that sort of thing, a villainous type. And what I saw was, I've never seen this before or since, him rotting in a coffin. I mean, it was really vivid, and I just had the feeling that he was trapped there. His soul was trapped in this box underground.
So if you were doing, when you're doing a reading or a communication, are you at any time in physical danger of yourself?
I always clean and seal my aura before I do a reading. I also say the Lord's Prayer. I take steps to make sure that, I'm not going to be possessed in any way, and I pretty much will only do this if I feel I'm talking to someone who's in heaven. I don't do it if I feel that they're in a bad place.
Has that ever happened to you when you feel they're in a bad place?
Just that aforementioned great-grandfather or whatever he was in that coffin, yeah.
Is there any demographics that are, well, let me ask a different way. Are there more ladies that come to you or more men?
As far as clients go?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought maybe you meant spirits that talk to me from the other side. It is more women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more women, probably I'd have to say that, yes. Mm-hmm.
Why do you think more women than men?
I think women may be more comfortable with the emotions that occur with a medium reading.
Is it
there
emotional?
Are a lot of tears,
really?
Usually. Yeah.
Okay, so besides being a medium and communicating with the other side, what else can you help people with? What gifts can you use?
I'm psychic.
Mm-hmm.
All mediums are. And so I can do, readings about their future, that type of thing. Often at the beginning of the year, I'll be busy doing a lot of readings about what the coming year is going to bring for various clients and stuff.
How do you see the rest of this year with the political unrest that we see around the world? Look what's happening in North Korea.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to fare out?
I feel this I feel in my chakras this strange sort of still before the storm kind of a feeling. And I don't know quite what that's about. I haven't quite pinned that down. Personally, I don't see the Trump administration going its 4 years. I see him being impeached, probably, or quitting that position.
Well, that would be strange to see him quit. I've never known or heard anybody say that Donald Trump the citizen or Donald Trump the president has ever been anything like a quitter.
But if you get into whether or not this job is really making him happy,
mm-hmm.
whether or not he is feeling popular, which is very important to him to be liked, those kinds of questions might cause him to leave the office.
Interesting. You mentioned chakras. What are chakras, and how do they play into being a psychic or a medium?
They're energy points at different parts of your body that I really recommend anyone who's interested in metaphysics and New Age stuff should familiarize themselves with their chakras. And they are energy points mm-hmm. at different parts of your body. One is at the crown of top of your head. One is the next is the throat chakra, but it also includes tingles you might get around your shoulders and so forth. Then you go down to the heart area of your chest, and below that, your upper stomach, your solar plexus, which is an interesting place because it's where people talk about getting butterflies in their stomach before performing. It's also a place that can bring you great solace if a dead loved one, may send you warm energy there that may make you feel comfortable and at peace with them having passed. And, of course, you have the sacral chakra and the root chakra in the lower part of your body.
You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Janice, please stand by. Exonation, Janice Carlson is our special guest this hour, www.janicecarlson.com. And this is the X-Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, Monday through Friday from 11 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, across Europe on Radio X. That's just 3 of the many broadcast affiliates that we have and programming providers that provide people all around the world. Janice Carlson is my guest. I am Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. We'll be back after the news.
Dreams are our personal gateways into infinite wisdom. Don't miss shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Corcoran's inspiring book, Shamanic Awakening Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles Sandra's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers and her initiations throughout the Americas and across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt. Sandy's knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private tarot readings, international journeys, a meditative CD, as well as her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate this earth walk, creating a deeper connection to yourself and all that is. Find this and more at Sandy's website, starwalkervisions.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Hello, I'm Justina Marsh, and with my dad Pete, we are going to present a new show called Too Good to Be True. Together, we are aiming to discover more truths about this world and beyond. Do you have unanswered questions about the world? Do you ever wonder about aliens, conspiracy theories, or the universe? There are many shows discussing subjects such as pyramids or UFOs, but we want to relay this information based on our own research, including from spiritual means. Hopefully, listeners will be helped with their own beliefs and will appreciate the psychic insights that add to the previous research and information. We both look forward to sharing this insight and beginning this journey with our listeners. Visit xzbn.net for more information about when to listen.
Exonation, Janice Carlson is our special guest. She is the author of Soul Sensing, How to Communicate with Your Dead Loved Ones. Her website is www.janicecarlson.com. So tell me, Janice, how can people communicate with their loved ones?
Well, the first thing to do is start paying attention to any physical signs that may be happening after a death in the family, like something that would have your dead loved one's signature on it. In other words, it would be an identifying thing. Perhaps one of their belongings will fall to the floor, or you may get an email message from them. You may get a phone message from them. Hang-up calls, those kinds of things at significant times, perhaps at the time of their death or their birth. All of those kinds of things. I mean, there's so many signs that you could just go on listing them forever. Some people tell me some of the more recent stuff I'm hearing is they see lights on the ceiling of their bedroom at night, like illuminations they can't figure out but are quite lovely. I think sometimes our loved ones are trying to show us what heaven looks like or parts of heaven. So just look for anything and that connects somehow to your loved one. It may be a song that comes on the radio that was their favorite or your favorite. And it's, again, an unusual song, something that's not playing all the time now. Again, a lot of people are going to write this stuff off as coincidences or just their imagination. But especially if it happens repeatedly, this is your loved one trying to get your attention and say, I made it to the other side and I'm okay.
So what's the difference between being visited by spirits or loved ones and being haunted by them?
Well, loved ones won't haunt you for the most part, unless they've got an axe to grind for some reason. Haunting has a negative connotation. Often it's a turf war issue. In other words, I lived in this house before you moved into this house, and it's my house, and I want you out of here. So they'll do things to scare you, to get you to leave, that type of thing. It's negative. It has negative energy to it.
Gotcha.
But being visited, on the other hand, is usually a fairly pleasant experience.
What are some of the obstacles that people should or can expect before succeeding with afterlife communications?
One is to trust your gut and your chakras. People, again, talk about gut feelings. That's your solar plexus telling you how things really probably are in your universe.
Right.
And just paying attention to those chakra points and learning to trust yourself and learning to not shrug off signs that are, if it's unusual, it's probably a sign.
Okay, now, what roles do our right and left brains play in the afterlife communications?
Right brain seems to be, if we go to the biblical context of this and say the kingdom of heaven is within you, I'd have to say the hands-on favorite is your right brain. If it's within you, then that's probably where it is. And that's the child brain. That's the child part of you that likes to play. It doesn't do well with criticism. It's just very playful and creative. And oftentimes, in order to get people loosened up enough to receive messages from their loved ones, I have to get them to a point where they're creating and playing more, which is something that as adults we just don't do anymore often. And that's often, too, why you'll hear in families that the children are the ones seeing the dead grandparents. Children under 5 especially are still kind of, maybe they've got one foot still in heaven or something. Right. And they, they're very right-brained. They're not critical of what's happening.
So at the time when someone is being communicated with from someone on the other side, or they think they're being communicated with, is this an inner battle that is going on in themselves within their brain? The right is trying to be logic and the other one is trying to be open?
Well, again, you really want to look for markers with what you're getting. Is this a deceased loved one? Because they'll put some sort of signature on what's happening. for instance, one of my in-laws has a brother that died very young, and one thing they had in common was marksmanship and a love of guns and hunting and so forth. And after he died, my brother-in-law found that the gun cabinet was opening on its own all the time. It would just sort of fall open, and that had never happened before. So he knew that it was his brother trying to communicate with him.
What was the message?
It's me. That's what they had in common, was their time in the Army, their love of guns, that type of thing.
How many times has it come to fruition, based on your expertise, that the manifestation of the spirit or the ghost is actually being manifested by the person themselves and has nothing to do with the paranormal, that it's their grief, their desire to have that person back, that is actually creating the illusion?
Well, the ironic part of that is the more grieving someone is, the more deeply in grief they are, the less likely they are to have these kinds of experiences.
Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know, except that they're just not centered enough to be listening to their chakras at all. They're just so bereft that they may be numb. They may not even know what they're feeling, let alone what
let's go a little bit past the time of grief. And around the person's birthday, for example, a lot of emotions are high, geez, we miss Uncle Tom, and something happens that the person perceives to be a communication, but has nothing to do with either the other side, or except that the manifestation or the belief of whatever happened was triggered by the person's own desire to have contact with Uncle Tom again. How can you tell the two apart?
I think many of these signs will have an outside kind of feeling to them. For instance, no matter how well you knew somebody, you can't always predict what they're going to say or what they're going to do. And I think that if the sign especially takes you aback a little bit, in that you weren't expecting it, that is something to really pay attention to. If you're sitting all afternoon looking at pictures of a deceased loved one, then don't be surprised if old memories come flooding to mind. But if you're doing something entirely removed from that, like your taxes or whatever, and some old memory pops into your mind from 20 years ago, that's them communicating with you. It's not you, manifesting it. Because you probably haven't even thought of that thing. Very often people will say to me, my God, I hadn't thought of that in 40 years. So it felt like an outside force bringing up that issue.
But once again, how do we validate this? How do we say this is what it really is and not the person's own wants and desires that's manifesting this?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to see a medium, because a medium will help validate it for you. Maybe you can conjure this up, but someone who's never known your deceased loved one can't.
But what happens to a person who goes to the medium and the medium says, geez, there's nothing I can do. I can't connect. This person isn't validating what you're saying.
Then you should get your money back, and you should go see a different medium. Very often medium is not a good
But what
match.
we're saying here is that whether the person is actually having a true experience or not, until some medium tells them that he is, that they keep on believing that they're having an experience that they may not be having. That's not very ethical.
Well, again, I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
Okay,
about
all right. Let me just. Well, I'll try it again. Somebody goes to see a medium because they believe that they have had a communication with a dearly departed one. They go to see this medium. The medium says, or the medium says, yes, I'm in contact with this person, and gives the person who is seeking the communication on this side no validation as to the true identity of or authenticating the information from the other side. When does the person who is seeking the communication with the other side just have to bite the bullet that maybe they're not communicating, that the communication is all in their mind?
I rarely is it all in their mind, and again, it's because you especially look for signs that are completely out of the blue. They're not something you thought about for a very long time. In fact, you may not even remember it, and it's coming through in a reading. And very often, that's why it's helpful to have other family members at a session, because one may remember something another one just doesn't.
But where does extrasensory perception fit into this? If the medium is attuned and is able to use ESP, how do we know that the medium isn't actually picking up the extrasensory perception thought waves of the person who is anticipating the contact with the other side?
It's that very surprise element I was talking about, the fact that they cannot always predict. Very often they can't what I'm going to say from their deceased loved one.
Okay, so I guess it would have to go on the person's faith, the faith that they have in the medium.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why vague things like I love you, he says, thanks for the lovely funeral. I mean, these things are just very vague, and you want to look for specifics. They won't always be what the specifics you thought would come through.
Right.
But they'll be they will be accurate.
How about if parent comes to you to communicate with their child who passed? That must be very hard for both you and the parents.
Yes, yeah.
And how long after a person leaves or dies is the best time to communicate with the person?
That varies with person to person. I've had some spirits that I can talk to the same day as the death. I've had others where I've had to say to the client, we need to do this in about 6 weeks or so. You're in too deep a state of grief, and your loved one, for whatever reason, is delayed in being able to communicate with us. So I'll pick a date in the future and say, let's try again on this date.
Does it matter if the departed person either goes to heaven or goes to hell?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you able to communicate with both upper and lower realms?
I'm able to communicate with heaven and with a level that I would call a remedial level. I wouldn't call it purgatory per se, because it's not about purging or punishing.
Right.
It's about remedial work with a soul, perhaps, who lived their life in a gin bottle, did a lot of stuff that was rotten, and has to work on, a kind of a 12-step program of sorts.
All right, Janice, stand by. We've got to take our final break for this hour. X-Zone Nation, Janice Carlson is our special guest, www.janicecarlson.com. And Janice has a new book out entitled Soul Sensing, How to Communicate with Your Dead Loved Ones. And once again, www.janicecarlson.com. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and if you'd like to send us an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. And don't forget to check out our network website at www.xzbn.net. Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world. There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the 4 corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome back, everyone. Janice Carlson is our guest. Her website is www.janicecarlson.com. She is the author of Soul Sensing, How to Communicate with Your Dead Loved Ones. Not only do you write about soul sensing, but you're also, you're not a ghost hunter, but you get to visit and write about famously haunting location. Isn't that the same as ghost hunting?
It's not to me, not to my way of thinking. Mm-hmm. When I go, I don't go there to find a ghost and expel it from the setting that it's in.
Right.
And I don't go there and yell at it to get it to come out and manifest itself.
Hold on, hold that thought. I want to ask you something about the yelling at ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that being disrespectful to the other side?
Oh, absolutely.
I deplore those people who do that. I think they're very rude. I think they're vulgar. I think that they're disrespectful, and they should just vanish from the earth.
It's awful. Oh. It really is, and I don't know where that got started, if it was meant to add drama to ghost hunting shows on TV or what. But just as shouting at people on Earth who are here physically is off-putting, certainly, and intimidating. It can certainly be the same with the souls of dead people. you know. When I go, I will choose, you know, to communicate with the spirits that are there, and either they choose to communicate with me or they don't. I don't come demanding them that they talk to me, and I have no intentions of expelling them from that setting. For me, when you go to visit a historical setting, everything about it is stuff you want to take in and enjoy. So to expel a ghost from that setting, to me, is like taking artwork from that setting, stealing things from that setting. You're not leaving it there for other people to enjoy, you know.
Yeah, I just find it so, number one, unprofessional, number two, so rude, and I can't understand why anyone in their right mind would even bother watching something as hideous as that.
I know. It's really awful.
You know, if they
because
can't...
These are spirits who, you know, don't have always a voice of their own, depending on your EVP equipment and so forth. And so you have to actually work on building some sort of sympathetic bond with them in order to get them to talk to you. And I certainly had that happen when we were in Gettysburg.
Tell me about that. Gettysburg, over 50,000 casualties during the American Civil War.
Yeah, in about a 2-day period. Well, okay, so we were there for about 5 days, my husband and I and our dogs, and what happened was that by day 3, Rob, nothing had happened, okay? Nothing had happened, and I was starting to get embarrassed. I mean, I'm journaling about this, I'm blogging about it, and now I'm going to have to go home empty-handed because nothing's happening. And yet, as I really thought about it, it started to occur to me, but it is happening. And what was starting to happen were these weird synchronicities. Everywhere we went, we were reminded of what state we were from. You know, if we went on the ghost walk that evening, then there were 3 other people from Minnesota. There were these weird coincidences around our home state, Minnesota. And they kept happening, and I thought, this is how the spirits are getting to know me in this setting. And naturally, in the middle of the War of the States, the first thing a soldier might ask another soldier is, where you from? Right? And wanting to know, first of all, where are you from? Because are you on the north or are you on the south side of this?
Well, obviously they would know that by the uniform, so go on.
Well, you would think so. But in my case, I felt like they were acknowledging where we were from. And as soon as we were fine on the northern side, but as soon as we went to the southern side of the battlefield, I cannot believe this to this day. We were walking, and my husband was a few feet ahead of me with walking one of our 2 dogs, and this log fell out of a tree. Apparently it was a rotten branch or something. It just fell out of a tree and nearly killed him. And I thought, we've got to get out of here. This is weird. That could have killed him. And I heard before it fell, I heard this like gunshot. And I thought, you know what? When you come to a place like this and you identify as a northerner, stay over on the northern side if you're interested in getting caught up in the whole ghost world of this.
All right.
Because you are slipping into their time.
Okay, this is a very logical person you're speaking to. I'm a former police investigator, criminal investigator. Journalist. How can you associate the sound of something that sounded like a gun to a branch falling out of a tree?
It was really a big branch. It was really thick and really round, and I had never seen anything like that happen in my life.
Wow.
I'm not saying that trees don't fall down, but it wasn't a tree that's prone to that type of thing. It was an old oak. By prone, I mean it wasn't one of the willows that are, you know, kind of widow makers and that sort of thing. But it was ominous. And it told me that the spirit world now identified us as northerners and that we should stay on the northern side of the battlefield. Because you literally slip into their time zone in places like that. And I don't know if it's because there were 50,000 deaths in 2 days, but to me, some sort of time-space opening had occurred, some sort of portal. And so be cautious about that when you go to visit historical places because, they're in the heat of battle.
There were 7,000 Marines that were killed one day on the shores of Okinawa in Japan. Not one haunting, not one ghost story about the 7,000 Marines that lost their lives in the battle against the Japanese on that island. How come?
I don't know. Maybe they haven't documented it well enough.
Auschwitz, no stories about hauntings there. How come?
I don't know.
Why only certain places?
Is that the case? I mean, could you possibly have read every piece of history about World War II?
I haven't heard of any hauntings of buildings or places in London that were bombed during the night bombing raids by the German Air Force. And on the other side, I haven't heard any stories about hauntings of people who were killed during the night blitzes that were done by the Allies. So why is it only these late Civil War places or the old the old Virginian towns or Gettysburg are filled with these stories? Is it part of the tourism trade?
Well, of course. I mean, that's part of the allure. They wouldn't be doing all the ghost walks that they do in all these different places if that wasn't part of the tourism thing. But again, unless you've read every piece of literature about it and era, you can't say that hauntings didn't occur. Maybe people were haunted and didn't write it down.
But where's the evidence?
Of what?
Of all these hauntings, of seeing ghosts, seeing spirits, besides EVPs and all these meters that are questionable at least.
But what do we use for evidence in a courtroom?
It depends if it's a civil case or a criminal case. In a civil case, you just need 51% of the preponderance of hearsay evidence is allowed in a civil case. But when it comes to a criminal case, you need evidence.
Yeah, from witnesses.
No.
From eyewitnesses.
Well, you need right. So would you take the word of somebody who says they saw a ghost as a credible witness?
Probably, because
Why?
It's embarrassing to tell people that a lot of people are very embarrassed to talk about the fact that they've seen a UFO
But a lot of people are looking for their 5 minutes of fame.
It could be. It could be. But really, in a place, for instance, like Gettysburg, there are so many people who've seen things, apparitions and so forth.
But not unlike my questions about the communication with the dead. How much of this is the will of the person to actually want to see something that they manifested themselves in their own mind?
Well, when I go to these places, I certainly want to see something, or I want to be able to take something back and put it in my travelogue. But if nothing happened, I just write, nothing happened. I didn't feel anything, I didn't see anything, and so forth.
But doesn't the credibility of the claim have a lot to do with its actuality and the presentation and perseverance of evidence?
I still think that witnesses, especially when you get several witnesses, are the best evidence we have.
I disagree with you there. I disagree. I like physical evidence. I like evidence that speaks for its own validity without going through hearsay evidence. Don't you?
Well, again, you're getting accounts from people that often don't even know each other. I mean, have not had a chance to compare notes.
But they all go to that same place with the anticipation of seeing something.
If you've lived 60 years, as I have, or more, and never seen a branch fall out of a tree like that on someone, or very nearly hit him,
right.
I mean, that by itself is just so unusual. I mean, that in that instant that would happen is just so unusual. And I'm not one of the ones who says, I'm not one of the metaphysical people who says there are no accidents or coincidences in the world. But this was really unusual.
Janice, you and I have to say so long for tonight. I want to thank you for joining us. And Exonation, if you'd like to find out more about Janice, her website is janicecarlson.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone, as we hopefully don't get a tree falling on us, or we see too many ghosts, or I don't know. I have a real hard time believing this stuff. I really do. For once, I would like to see somebody bring me something that would prove that these entities, these spirits, those who communicate or get communicated with on the other side really exist. Don't go away.